person.
We're back now. I think you're getting the full feeling of the tumult of Sunday brunch at the dining hall. I think you feel the background noise, you feel the tension. It's all happening here. People are making plans. People are ambitious. It's outrageous.
What is going on here?
I'm taping brunch. Don't let it inhibit you.
David was this big and colorful character at Brown.
Do you know Dave here?
Yeah, you're a dancing fool, madman.
Yeah.
He was one of the better known people on campus. He was constantly going around and getting involved in provocative conversations with just about everybody he would meet.
Hi, Marion.
Hi, Dave.
We never finished that discussion on amniocentesis and all those other fun things. But I've been thinking about the issues some more.
You're really recording this. Oh my God.
I heard about your brother long before I met him.
Hi, I'm Dave.
My then boyfriend would sometimes say, I can't see you tonight, I'm going out with David Dornstein, or David Dornstein said this, or David Dornstein and I are in a play. And he mentioned him a lot with a certain amount of reverence. David was sort of this mythological figure.
I mean, he was a pretty memorable character on the stage, and he was also writing provocative columns in the Brown Daily Herald. He took a stodgy format and he turned it into something quite surprising and full of opinions and ideas that you don't normally read in your college newspaper.
He had this column which everybody seemed to read. It was David. I mean, he liked to provoke. He liked to kind of poke around and see where he'd get a response from.
He was probably detested by a small group of people, and a lot of other people just thought he was one of those odd characters you meet when you go off to college.
Well, what's the point? Now, what are you trying to prove?
Well, I wrote this whole ism series. Like dealing with my own anti-feminism and dealing with my own...
I was his editor for a year, and we stayed friends after college.
Norm, did you ever feel it at all?
At the time, I got an assignment to go write about Brown for Rolling Stone, and I brought David along with me as kind of a rent-a-character. And so I think the tapes that you have were from the very first moment that we started driving from New York to Providence.
How long do you think it's going to take us to get there?
I tell you, it's going to be 5 hours.
And he immediately began interrogating some other people in the car about the Brown experience.
It's precisely this mentality that drives people to say, well, if I want to know something about something, I have to take a course in it, rather than, well, if I want to know something, I can just pick up the book and study it on my own.
So why should you ever take a class, and why should you just...
We already went through this, Max.
And I would often find that he would take positions that he didn't necessarily agree with and stick to those positions just as a way to kind of provoke other people to defend their particular points of view.
I mean, I'm obviously trying to bait you a little bit, but I mean...
You're just trying to prove your point right now, and therefore you're gonna deconstruct everything around you. But why is he...
For David, it was his ideas, his humor, the spectacle that he made of himself, what he inspired in people, a remark he made. He pissed off people.
You said that what you learned at Brown was from outside of your classes anyway.
History is different than a science.
Why? It's the same thing. It's explaining facts. I learned more about science from people who I talked with outside of class. Said, listen, I was thinking about velocity the other day. Maybe you could tell me something about it.
You know, like
later.
I felt alive when I was with your brother.
But what makes you so sure that just because you require it of someone to take a course, they'll be more conversant?
It was exciting to be involved in these conversations and debates into the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number of people who have no fucking idea what they're going to do is a good indication that the university's doing a good job.
It took me a while to really accept that he was no more.
David was the first friend I had who died. And to die in such a way, it was chilling. You know, I spent like the next few days in a fog. And I remember at that point, nobody knew that it had been bombed. And I wondered, like, maybe David was arguing with the terrorists, which fed into so many of the things he had talked about.
I mean,
was there any part of you, this sounds bizarre, but that needed any convincing that this was true? I mean, the way he lived his life and the way he would be provocative or pull stunts.
Yeah. So I do remember having a ton of questions, even after I saw his name in the paper. But I was mostly just focused on the fact that, my good friend, David Dornstein, who I loved, had been killed in this really incredibly bizarre way. And that I was never going to see him again, and that his potential would never be fulfilled, and that he wouldn't have children, a family of his own, and that he wouldn't be writing novels or plays or columns in the newspaper.
Hi, I'm Dave.
Hello. Oh yeah, Dave. I've been reading your columns in the Herald.
It's 6 minutes to 1, and the place is still reckless and chaotic. The pell-mell commotion.
I mean, I've tried to imagine this. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just say he could be in a room with the men who plotted that bombing and the men who carried it out.
Yeah.
I mean, picture David, the David you knew, getting a chance to talk to the men who blew up his plane.
David would want to talk to them. He would want to know, how do you end up a terrorist? I'd have to think he'd want to say why.
No, I really like to know on what grounds do you suppose it's a gap in someone's knowledge?
I mean, David picked arguments with
I
people,
don't know these things.
spoke to them, challenged them. He was sort of fearless.
So what's the point? What are you trying to prove to me?
David would want to know the people and their own inner mechanisms of what made them do what they did.
Why is there a specific case to be made for forcing someone of an independent nature?
I can imagine David would have liked the idea of sitting down with the terrorists.
You believe that people have to show you what
I mean, he was a provocative character. That would be very much in the spirit of how he would do things, which is to go have a conversation with his murderer.